and thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Indiana Sports Connection. So today on the show, we're going to talk about Jeudy. He is most definitely not coming to the Colts, and why he is a toxic player that really we should not be excited about. Some things have come out about this guy. We're going to talk about that on this episode. We're going to talk about my personal theory on why are points so down in the NFL this year. Points are way down. Personally, I have my own theory on quarterbacks and what's happened with a lot of quarterbacks, and we'll talk about that at the end of this show. And also Boogie Fland making his decision, and I'm going to tell you, it's not looking good like he's going to go to IU, but I don't care where this guy goes because it's utterly makes no difference whatsoever. This is Indiana Sports Connection, brought to you by, let's thank our sponsor, Reynolds Wrap. Reynolds Wrap's everyday foil has been helping people save time in the kitchen for 75 years. A great American company, Reynolds Wrap. Use this foil to make packets for your vegetables, to steam vegetables. Put it on your grill to save time on cleanup. Put it over sheet pans to save time so you don't have to wash all those giant pans after you're done making stuff. I use Reynolds Wrap for absolutely everything. Save time at halftime of the game by using Reynolds Wrap, and then wad that stuff up, throw it in the trash can, get right back to watching your Colts. Thank you to Reynolds Wrap for sponsoring this video. So we have a lot of people on everywhere have been just rumoring Jeudy coming to the Indianapolis Colts. And so this guy has really proven himself to be kind of just a crazy lunatic moron. So if you don't know, Steve Smith, the player that played at Carolina with the wide receiver, called Jeudy out and said that, well, he said that Jeudy cannot take constructive criticism at all, which is pretty much saying like he's uncoachable. And I believe Steve Smith, what he's saying. I don't know who he heard this from, but Jeudy at the Denver Broncos has not panned out to be the type of wide receiver that they really thought he would be. Stephen Holder, that works as a reporter, came out with an article this morning, just about 4 hours ago, that really all of the Bronco trade talks were really one-sided, is what he said. That many of you have asked me, this is from Stephen Holder's Twitter account, many of you have asked me about the Colts and Broncos wide receiver Jeudy ahead of the trade deadline. Here's what I was told by multiple sources. The Broncos called the Colts, not the other way around. Denver has made numerous calls to teams. In fact, more. I mean, they're shopping this guy everywhere. They're trying to send him to the Bills, to the 49ers, to anywhere. It makes absolutely no sense for the Colts to get Jeudy. It even makes less sense for the Colts to get Jeudy and then get rid of Michael Pittman. Jeudy is owed $13 million next year. Michael Pittman will be owed money. He's in a contract year as well. Jeudy has not lived up to all the hype that has surrounded him. He was a first-round draft choice in 2020 coming out of Alabama. With the amount of perennial success they've had, wide receivers going from college to the NFL. I mean, Amari Cooper, the guy at Philadelphia. Alabama's just had tons and tons of good wide receivers run through there. Jeudy just seemed like he was going to be, the next guy coming out of there that would be one of the best receivers in the NFL. That hasn't really panned out. I don't know if it's because he just doesn't like to practice. From what he says, he said a day or two ago, he's really blaming everybody, like that people got to go, not look at the stats, that it's the quarterback's fault, the offensive line's fault. It's everybody's fault except for his. He's doing everything right. I think that's the whole point of all of this. You have to take some responsibility for some of these things. It's really petty what happened between him and Steve Smith, because Steve Smith, I guess, said some things about Jeudy being not not living up to his potential on his podcast, and then he was going to talk to him in person at one of the games a week or two ago. And when he went to talk to him, he pretty much screamed in his face. I mean, he didn't scream in his face, but he, called Steve Smith a bunch of names, and all he was going to do is talk to him and, apologize. But Jerry Jeudy is not. He is just a toxic player, and maybe he'll find his way somewhere else. I mean, since Peyton Manning left the Denver Broncos, they have not been very good, and I can see why. Maybe he's frustrated and he's just not trying very hard. But if you watch film of this guy, there are many plays where if it's a running play or different types of plays, I mean, Michael Pittman Jr., when I watch him on off plays, he is really a good run blocker because of his size and strength. He's really made him, wide receivers aren't really known to be great blockers, but he is one that has done that a lot for the Colts. And Jerry Jeudy, I mean, I've watched some film on him, and there are plays where he doesn't even run off the line. He just stands there and doesn't do anything at all because he's not getting the ball. If you're a team player, you're going to do your job on every play, whether the ball is being thrown to you or it's a running play or whatever. So, I mean, this guy, he's a virus. So, Jerry Jeudy, there is zero chance that he comes to the Colts now. And, I'm not really that upset about it. I thought if they could get this guy on a really cheap deal, and he was, interested and he wanted to play for the Colts and, could have done that, maybe something along those lines, or traded him for a third or fourth round pick, maybe not even that. But from what I hear about all this stuff with him, it's really bad. So, not the type of players that the Colts even go after, and not the type of player that Chris Ballard would go after. So I'm glad that Stephen Holder silenced all of this, because this talk of Jerry Jeudy, I mean, I've seen people online, can you imagine, Anthony Richardson with Jerry Jeudy and Michael Pittman and, Downs next year, and that is not going to happen. So Jerry Jeudy, get lost. You suck anyway, and so do the Broncos. So you might not be in the NFL. Steve Smith said that you're a third-tier wide receiver, if anything. So, Jerry Jeudy, clean it up, my friend. All right, so let's talk a little bit about I have a theory, because scoring is way down in the NFL. This last week in scoring is the lowest point totals for a week of scoring since 2014. So, I mean, that's almost a 10-year period. Scoring this year in the NFL has been way, way down. So, I just want to tell you kind of a theory that I've been coming up with, and I've seen that the scoring has been kind of going down the last few years. But I would just say, hear this, because there have been so many high-level pocket passers in the NFL leave the game. And the NFL has not really replaced those players with more productive players. They've replaced those players with less productive players. There's also something else that's happening in the NFL when these quarterbacks get later on in their careers. Now, it did work for Tom Brady, started doing this, and then Matthew Stafford did this, and then everybody else started doing it as well. But when Brady went from the Patriots to the Buccaneers, well, when he left the Patriots, then they stunk. Then the Buccaneers are putting everything on Tom Brady being there, and then he's there for a couple years, and then he leaves, and now the Buccaneers are not very good on offense either. This same type of thing has kind of happened with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson was a productive player at Seattle, had a lot of great years there, goes to Denver, now he's terrible. Derek Carr, he was at Oakland, he goes to New Orleans. I watched that game last night with the Saints, and I mean, even though they did come back, and I mean, I guess that was in garbage time. I fell asleep during that game, but I mean, the first half, New Orleans just was struggling moving the ball. It was hard to watch. And a lot of these teams, I don't know if you notice this, but a lot of these teams can be really hard to watch on offense. The offenses in the NFL are just awful right now. And it's weird because the NFL has spent so much time, or not time, but they've made so many rules, really. They've made all the rules to make everything in the NFL quarterback-centric. But the big problem is teams like Minnesota that are paying Kirk Cousins like $50 million, they have no chance to win the Super Bowl. The only chance you really have to win the Super Bowl if you're paying your quarterback $50 million is if your quarterback can do what Patrick Mahomes can do. And right now, there's nobody that can do what he can do out there as far as like changing, being that type of a game-changing player, being worth that amount of money. So let's name off. I got a list here. These are all the quarterbacks that just have left the NFL in recent years. So, I mean, just look at the Bears. Jay Cutler was with the Bears. He was their best quarterback they've ever had. I mean, the quarterback play for the Bears has significantly decreased. They're a really hard team to watch. It's a hard 3.5 hours if you're watching the Bears on Sunday. Andrew Luck leaving the Colts, same thing there. I mean, they've stunk at quarterback. Then you got Russell Wilson, going to the Broncos. We talked about that. Rodgers going to the Jets. I mean, Rodgers going to the Jets and then getting injured. Now Green Bay doesn't have a good quarterback, and their offensive play is not what it once was. And the Jets, they've never had good offensive play. So a team that thought they were getting a good quarterback, now we have two teams that stink right there because they thought they were getting Aaron Rodgers. Brady leaving, we talked about that. How about Matt Ryan? Matt Ryan was a really good quarterback. I mean, all of the players I'm naming here are ones that, at least in the last 10 years, if they were on TV, most of the time I'd watch those games. If Matt Ryan was playing against Tom Brady, I would watch that game, 5 years ago. But Matt Ryan leaves the Falcons, goes to the Colts. He was not good for the Colts. That was not good for the Falcons either. So, I mean, my point is, like, these old quarterbacks, when they change teams, they literally leave like a wake of two terrible teams in their wake every single time. So you got Eli Manning leaving the Giants. I mean, that seems like it was forever ago now, but he was replaced with Daniel Jones. He's not as productive. Tony Romo leaves the Cowboys. He's replaced with Dak. Dak is not near of the passer that Tony Romo was. Tony Romo's games, a lot of those Giants-Cowboys games, even way back, I always watched those. Those were super entertaining games, and they were really high-scoring games as well. I do feel like we're being robbed of some of this. Roethlisberger's gone. Deshaun Watson, he got in trouble. I mean, now he came back to the NFL. I watched one of his games a few weeks ago. He's not very good anymore. He's just not what he once was. I don't know if he's still trying to figure it out. Drew Brees. Brees leaves the Saints. Then Derek Carr goes to the Saints. The Saints aren't very good. And neither are the Raiders. The Raiders just have a mediocre offense. They have Jimmy Garoppolo. So my point is there's been a mass exodus of quarterbacks from the NFL, and they've not been replaced with the type of productive players that you would need. I always viewed that as like Russell Wilson and Andrew Luck were kind of in a in-between class, in between, kind of like, I guess, the Cam Newton, they were kind of like a bridge in between. Like Andrew Luck was maybe going to be kind of a bridge in between the Manning, Brady, and then the next generation of like Mahomes and all that. Andrew Luck's retired. RG3 is gone. Like many of the people from that draft class in 2011 or 2012, I mean, there's just not many players from those drafts left. I mean, Matthew Stafford's an older player in the league. Aaron Rodgers is as well, if we'll see him come back and play. But there's been massive amounts of players leave the NFL, especially really great quarterbacks, and they've just not been replaced by the caliber of players that were there before. And that's why this year scoring is down Scoring has not been this low in the NFL since the year 2000. And that's pretty crazy considering the amount of rules. Like, there's no force out rule anymore. I guess that benefited the defense a little bit more. But, they've changed a ton of rules to make everything easier for the offense. And then now we don't have as good of offense. It's like, what gives with all of that? Hey, guys, leave your comments down below. Tell me what you think about what are your theories on all this stuff. I really just wanted to do a more general episode today and talk some about that. And we'll talk more tomorrow about what the Colts have coming up against the Browns in this game. The injury report comes out this afternoon, so we'll see exactly what's going on with that. And we'll see if Deshaun Watson's going to play in this game or not. I think they're going to make a game time decision on him. But thank you so much for watching this episode of Indiana Sports Connection. Until next time, stay classy out there, Colts fans.